All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is our mock trial based on the Boston Massacre. First in class, we did an investigation to see what the facts and the details were in the case, and students had to remain neutral and take notes on whether they found evidence for self-defense or murder in the case. From there, we selected students to be the lawyers in the case, and they actually wrote the script. So everything you hear was written by them, with a little bit of help from me to make this sound like a real trial. They wrote the questions that the lawyers are asking and the answers that the witnesses are giving based on the real-life testimony from the investigation. So what you're about to see is almost totally done by them, and I just want to say I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud of you guys for doing this, and we hope you enjoy the show.
The Boston Massacre happened on March 5th, 1770 in Boston Square at 9 p.m. at night. And this is how it happened. Colonists were angry about all the taxes and acts forced on them by King George III. So they were protesting in the middle of Boston Square, where 10 soldiers were stationed. The colonists had clubs and snowballs that had either ice or rocks in them, and they were throwing them at the soldiers and calling them names. Then a mysterious shot was fired, and no one knows who fired it. So the British soldiers continued to fire. In the end, 5 colonists were killed. Their names were Crispus Atticus, Samuel Gray, James Caldwell, Samuel Maverick, and Patrick Carr. Paul Revere, a son of liberty from Boston, decided to call this event the Bloody Massacre. The reason we are here having this mock trial is to find out who started the Bloody Massacre. Was it an act of self-defense that the soldiers killed 5 colonists, or are they guilty of murder? We hope you enjoy our mock trial and learn something new.
This trial is now in session. Please rise for the Honorable Judge Off-Lead. You may be seated. We will now hear the trial of Thomas Captain Preston and his British soldiers for being accused of murder of 5 colonists on the night of March 5th, 1770, now called the Boston Massacre. Mr. Samuel Quincy is the prosecutor on the case, and Mr. John Adams is the defense attorney. Mr. Quincy, you may call your first witness.
The prosecution calls Mr. Andrew to the stand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
What is your name and occupation?
My name is Andrew, and I'm a whip. I am a slave in Boston, Massachusetts.
Where were you on the night of March 5th, 1770?
I was at home when I heard the bells ringing. I went to the gate and asked where the fire was. Someone responded that there was no fire.
Where did you then go?
I then followed a group of boys down to where the commotion was. There was a number of people throwing snowballs at the soldiers, and the soldiers were getting angry and swearing at the boys.
Please tell us, what did you see and hear as you got closer to where the soldiers were standing?
The boys were yelling at the soldiers and throwing more snowballs. I heard a soldier say, "Stand back." And one of the boys responded, "You darn lobster, bloody back, are you going to stab me?"
And what was the soldier's response?
He said, by God will I."
According to your testimony, you stated that a colonist got hold of Captain Preston's gun. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
What did that colonist do next?
He pointed the gun at the soldiers. Someone in the crowd yelled fire. I can't be sure who said it. And then one of the soldiers fired their gun.
So, Andrew, you witnessed all of the soldiers fire all of their shots.
Yes, I did.
Your witness.
Andrew, since you were a slave, did anyone threaten you to not say the truth and that if you did, something would happen to you?
Nobody threatened me, and I'm telling you what I saw, and that is the truth.
Didn't you state in your testimony that the colonists were calling the soldiers lobsters and bloody backs?
Yes, the boys shouted, saying lobsters, bloody backs, who buys lobster?
In your testimony, didn't you also say that you heard one of the colonists shout, fire, and be cursed? Who cares? You dare not fire.
Yes, I did hear the colonists daring the soldiers to fire.
In your testimony, didn't you say that the boys were throwing snowballs at the soldiers, including you, yourself?
Yes, we were throwing snowballs at the soldiers.
You also stated that numbers of people were picking up pieces of sea coal and throwing it at the soldiers. Is this correct?
Yes, boys standing right next to me picking up pieces of sea coal and threw them right at the soldiers.
We also know from your testimony that one of the colonists struck the captain with a club. Can you please explain to the jury what happened?
Yes, one of the colonists had a club. First, he hit the captain in the right arm, causing him to drop his gun. Then he hit the captain over the head with his club.
So, you're saying that after being hit with a club multiple times, Captain Preston's gun lay on the ground and not in his hands?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Andrew, you may step down. Will the prosecution please call its next witness?
The prosecution calls Mr. George Sanderland to the stand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and occupation.
My name is George Sanderland, and I'm a citizen of Boston.
What did you see on the night of March 5th, 1770?
I heard the noise of a fight going on, so Samuel Atwood and I went up to see what had happened, and we saw the end of the fight.
What did you see after that?
The boys who had been fighting had left, and Atwood had asked the soldiers, "Did you intend to murder these people?" The soldier replied yes and struck Atwood with his bayonet, wounded him.
Did the soldiers stop after injuring Atwood?
No, I then saw the British officer come out and say, "Where are the cowards?" He was looking for more colonists from the fight.
Did anything happen after this?
Yes, then they started looking for more innocent people, and they attacked single unarmed people.
Did they leave after?
They started to, but the colonists were still angry. So they threw snowballs at the soldiers, and that's when I heard Captain Preston say, "Fire, let the consequences be what they will."
So they intended to kill these people, not caring about the consequences?
Objection!
Sustained. Mr. Payne, please rephrase your question.
Yes, Your Honor. In your opinion, Mr. Sanderland, did these soldiers intend to kill innocent people?
Yes, in my opinion, they did.
That is a lie. We did no such thing.
Order in the court! Mr. Payne, please continue.
That is all, Your Honor. Your witness.
Mr. Sanderland, in your testimony, you stated that a talisman holding a cudgel struck the captain over the hands and aimed to blow up the captain's head, which caused him to drop his gun. Did you or did you not see Captain Preston fire his weapon at the colonists?
No, I did not. But the other soldiers fired at least 11 shots and left 5 people dead in the street. Order in the court. We will now have no more outbursts. Mr. Josiah, please continue.
No further questions.
Will the prosecution please call its next witness?
Prosecution calls Mr. William Wyatt to the stand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and occupation for the jury.
My name is William White, and I'm a sailor.
What did you see on the night of March 5th, 1770?
I was in Boston down at Trees where my vessel was, and I heard the bells ringing. I thought there was a fire, so I went to the south side of town.
What did you see next?
I saw an officer and 7 soldiers come out, and Captain Preston told them to load their guns. Later on, the captain told them to fire. They didn't do that, so he said, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" They still didn't, so he said, "Fire! Let the consequences be what they will."
Preposterous lies! They all speak of lies! Order in the court. Captain, one more outburst from you and your soldiers, and I will hold you in contempt of court. Mr. Quincy, please continue.
What did you see after people got shot?
Immediately after gunshots, I saw 3 people fall down on the streets. After the last gun was fired off, Captain Preston jumped in front of the soldiers waving his gun and said, "You rascals, what did you fire for?"
So would you say that Captain Preston tried to cover up the fact that he is the one who gave the command to fire?
Objection, leading the witness.
Sustained. Mr. Quincy, please rephrase your question.
So what you heard was Captain Preston say fire several times, then later ask his soldiers why they fired.
Yes, that is what I heard.
Prosecution, arrest.
Mr. Wyatt, could you please restate your occupation for the jury?
Yes, I'm a sailor.
So, since you had just came from your boat on that night of March 5th, is it possible that you may misinterpreted what you saw and that you first thought it was a fire in the city and not a crowd of angry colonists?
No, I know what I saw. My story is true.
In your testimony, you stated that you saw colonists with sticks and clubs in their hands, and they were shouting, huzzaing, and laughing at the soldiers. Is that correct?
Yes, I saw people with sticks in their hands, but I couldn't observe if they threw anything at the soldiers.
And one thing you heard the colonists shouting was fire, was it not?
Yes, I heard some shouting fire.
So, in all this commotion and confusion, isn't it possible that the soldiers heard fire and thought it was their captain commanding them to fire their weapons?
Objection!
No need. I will withdraw the question. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams and Mr. Josiah, does the defense have any witnesses to call to the stand?
Yes, Your Honor. We would like to call the final witness, Captain Thomas Preston. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Captain, please state your name and occupation.
My name is Captain Thomas Preston, and I am a British officer in the Army of His Highness, His Majesty, King George III.
Please tell the jury how you found out about all the commotion in Boston Square on the 5th night of March in 1770.
Well, on Monday at 9 o'clock at night, while I rested, a guard came to inform me that an hour before 8 o'clock, 2 of my soldiers were attacked and beat by a mob of angry colonists in Boston Square, and that the colonists were planning to attack the rest of my soldiers. So I went to see what was the matter, and I saw the colonists gathered in Boston Square, throwing snowballs and holding clubs and other weapons, and yelling and screaming at the soldiers.
What was the first thing you heard one of the colonists yell?
I heard one of the colonists say, as he grabbed hold of my colonist, that he intended to murder us.
Did you hear them say anything further?
Yes, the colonists were threatening my soldiers and me. They were using cruel and horrid threats to my troops and me.
What kinds of things did the colonists say to you and your soldiers?
The colonists were calling us rascals, bloodybacks, and scoundrels.
What happened next?
The colonists began to attack us with heavy clubs and hard snowballs. I was standing in the middle of them trying to break up the fight. I asked the colonists to retire peacefully, but they refused, and so the fight went on.
How did you proceed?
At that time, the mob began to attack. One of my soldiers received a severe hit to the hands, and immediately his weapon went off. I asked him why he had fired, and that is when I got hit with a club on my hands, dropped my weapon, and then took a terrible hit on my head, which almost killed me. Our lives were in imminent danger, as you can see.
Captain, did you at any time order your soldiers to fire?
Absolutely not. In fact, after I got hit on the head, I clearly heard many colonists shouting, "Why don't you fire?" So it was they who caught that word, not I.
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Captain, how many soldiers were you in charge of that night? I was in charge of 10 of the king's finest soldiers.
Why weren't you on post in Boston Square when the crowd of colonists came together?
I left one of my most responsible soldiers in charge while I replenished my hunger and shut my eyes.
Wasn't it your job to keep an eye on the soldiers?
I had not eaten or slept for a while and needed to do so. I did not accept the mob of people to appear out of nowhere.
Even if a soldier did accidentally fire, like you said, wouldn't it be your responsibility to take for that action?
Well, why should I take responsibility for something that was not my fault, but the fault of angry, hostile mob of colonists?
You mean the colonists that were protecting themselves after you had fired on them?
Objection!
No need, Your Honor. The prosecution rests.
Counselors, are there any further witnesses from either side?
No, Your Honor.
Okay then. Mr. Quincy, please give your closing statement to the jury.
Colonists of the jury, this is a clear case of cold-blooded murder by these British soldiers. You remember that Mr. William Wyatt and Mr. George Sanderlin both heard Captain Preston say those fateful words, "Fire, may the consequences be what they will." Furthermore, Mr. Sanderlin saw those brutal soldiers wound his friend Samuel Atwood and say that they intended to slaughter other innocent people. Colonists use words, while the soldiers use their weapons to kill. Have we forgotten that the soldiers shot with dead-on accuracy? If their guns had been shot by accident, would they have been so accurate? I think not. Why would they kill a person who's throwing a simple snowball? And if you remember correctly, by the defense's case, they said that Captain Preston has got hit on the head, so maybe he does not remember what actually happened. Well, I know what happened, and now it's up to you to serve justice for the lives of those innocent colonists who now lay dead in the ground.
Mr. Adams, please give your closing statement to the jury.
Once again, colonists of the jury, this is a simple case of self-defense. The angry and aggressive mob of colonists were throwing rock-filled snowballs, clubs, and other weapons at the soldiers. These loyal soldiers had no choice but to defend themselves. Plus, the mob of colonists were threatening the soldiers and calling them lobsters, bloodybacks, and scoundrels. The colonists that took the witness stand may have thought they heard Captain Preston give that order. However, with all the commotion, how could they be sure? Just to remind you again, Captain Preston had lost control of his gun and had been struck on the hand and the head with clubs. Meanwhile, the colonists yelled and chanted, daring the soldiers to fire. Now, imagine you were one of those soldiers, simply trying to protect yourself. You hear someone yell, "Fire," and you do as you have been taught as a soldier. What would you have done? As you can see, this was not a murder. This is a clear case of self-defense.
The jury will now decide on the verdict. Has the jury reached the verdict?
Yes, were the jury found defense guilty or not guilty?
Is it guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
You think not guilty?
Yeah.
You found them not guilty? Okay, so not guilty.
Soldiers, you are free to go. Bailiffs, release the defendants. Court is now adjourned.
Bailiffs. Okay, stop there. So while they set up to read you the Declaration of Independence, I told them that I would reveal the real results of the trial that was held for the soldiers. And the trial was much different than this. The soldiers were actually tried separately. Captain Preston had his own trial and was found not guilty, so he was able to walk away from it. And only 4 of the soldiers were found guilty. The rest of the other 6 were released. And it was very interesting because the defense attorneys were actually patriots who were defending British soldiers. And the prosecution was actually loyalists that were defending the colonists. So it was kind of a strange situation. But those are the real results. Okay, so, we're ready? Madison?
Now our class would like to share with you our copy of the Declaration of Independence. We decided to take the Declaration and rewrite it so all of us can understand it better. We all took it by sections and recreated it as a class. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Sometimes in the cycle of our life, it is necessary for one group to break away from another group of people.
Our Creator has given us the power to do what we feel is right.
This is our statement. We need to separate from Britain and King George.
We hold the truth that all women and men are created equally. We all have the same rights that cannot be taken away, and they are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
In order to not take away any of those rights, the citizens should have a say in the government.
Whenever the government isn't working, it is the right of the people to fix or get rid of it. If one group of people is being treated unfairly by another group, we are able to separate from that group.
We will now state once and for all, we are independent and no longer owned by Britain.
We have been suffering for a long time, and now is the best time to say. Many people are getting hurt, if not worse.
The king refuses to make it right. He did not let our lawmakers pass laws, and he did not respond to our petition for peace.
He will not let us make our own laws, but only follow his, which is the act of a tyrant king. He has called together government bodies at uncomfortable and distant places for the main purpose of making us do what we want without any choice.
He has broken apart Representative House repeatedly, proposing with manly firmness in his invasion of the rights of people. He has refused for a long time to grant us legislative powers and return the rights to the people at large for their exercise.
The king has tried very hard to stop the people of the colonies from moving into the western land. The king chose judges that he would keep them as long as they did a good job.
King George cut all the trades because we refused to buy the goods with taxes.
The king decided to hire so many to help out with tax collection and put soldiers in the streets to harass our people.
He took away the peace from us and kept the body of our land.
King George has disagreed to increase the power of the military.
He has made his own judges and no jury. And most important, he has made unfair laws.
He has subjected us with others to have official power over us without matching our government beliefs.
The king decided to have colonists take care of soldiers and have colonists give up supplies to them, like food, drinks, in their own homes.
For stopping our trade with the world.
For putting taxes on us without our fair concern.
We have had no jury to say if we were guilty or not. If we did something wrong, the king would have us sent to Britain to be tried.
For ending the freedom of laws in a very near area, making in that place random government, and expanding its dividing line so as to return it at once. An example and fit tool for introducing the same complete rule into these colonies.
For taking away our documents, ending our most valuable laws, and changing aspects of our government.
The king decided to have General Gage enforce laws so that people would stop protesting loudly in the streets.
He has got us out of his protection and has declared war on us. He has stopped the boats and has ruined the towns and has killed our citizens.
He is sending British soldiers to battle against us. King George is taking our fellow colonists over the seas and holding them captive.
The king promised many people that he would give them great arms if they fought against us. We tried to stay with Britain, but it was too unbearable to take it all in.
We protested and boycotted unfair prices, and he still doesn't understand that we don't like the unfair laws that he is giving us.
We've been waiting for the attention of our British brethren. We've warned them from time to time of attempts to insert unforgiving power over us.
We have reminded them time and again of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here.
We have appealed to their native justice, and we have called upon them, but they've been deaf to the voice of justice. Their court has been necessary for our separation. We now hold them as we hold the rest of mankind in war and peace and friend.
The colonies are now free and independent states. All connection between Britain and the United States of America is gone. We represent the United States of America and its citizens.
We will now say that these United States are independent states. We no longer have connection with Britain.
These are the things we are allowed to do: go to war, help other countries, and for them to help us, and to have our own businesses.
The signers state that we are now a free country.
Stay there, guys. If you could like put your paper